Like she said something came up, so we can start by talking about the other stuff.
Yeah, let's start talking about other stuff.
Well, I just sent out a PDF file. I don't know if you guys can see it. I can share my screen too if you want.
Yeah, share your screen. My computer's sitting over.
All right.
Well, everybody, this is Lauren.
Hi.
Hi, Lauren.
Lauren has replaced Alec.
All right. So this is from the economic study, the pilot study. We collected 33 OLIV data points and 30 TLIF data points. For people who are not familiar with this, we basically have a questionnaire about 5 to 6 pages. We call people up. We ask them.
Yes.
Say again?
Is this OLIV economic?
Yeah, this is economic.
Okay.
We have a questionnaire. We call people, for anybody who's not familiar with this, we have a questionnaire. We call people up. We ask them a bunch of questions about the treatments they received after the surgery, including doctor's visits, physical therapy, that kind of stuff. And then we're hoping to compare OLIV and TLIF. So the bad news is that unfortunately in this study, so this is the pilot study, right? We have 33 OLIV and 30 TLIFs. Unfortunately, we somehow caught a group that has a lot of OLIVs with readmissions, or, I mean, it could just be that OLIV has a higher readmission rate in general, but in this group we had only 2 TLIF patients who were readmitted to the hospital, and we had 9 OLIV patients who were readmitted to the hospital. Those reasons for readmission were revision, blood clot, revision, leg pain, rehab pain, nerve pain, revision, fall, and then that's it. And then 2 TLIF cases, the readmissions were for pain and right ileus. I don't know what that must be, psoas syndrome or something like that. But anyway, so that's unfortunately kind of skewing the data. We have, other than that, there aren't really many big differences between the treatments received. The OLIV patients actually got slightly more imaging after surgery, which maybe is not surprising because we're following them up a little more closely, given that it's a new procedure. I mean, that could also, make OLIV kind of look bad that we're following these patients more closely. We have a similar number of outpatient visits for each. We have a similar number of physical therapy visits for each after the surgery. Now, if you look at the days lost, again, everything's kind of very similar for imaging visits, for surgeon visits. So, overall, unfortunately, we don't really see a big difference yet. I think
Can we go back to the TLIF group was from those 69, right? That initial, that very comparison.
Yeah.
Right? Now,
yeah, that's right.
Was it the OLIV group in the first year, second year, third year?
Let me look at that, actually. I think we started with the more, let me see. Those are OLIVs. I'm seeing 2015 OLIVs.
2015, so 2 years into that.
2015, 2014 OLIVs.
Okay, so 1 and 2 years. And I think that probably, in that time, we were still refining our protocols and so on. And
yeah.
All the things that can we get a sample from like 2017 and 2018?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We can call some more recent patients up and see what they say. Because the problem is we're running out of TLIF patients. I mean, we have like 60 patients in the TLIF group. We've gotten data from 30 of them, so that's like a 50% response rate, which is pretty good. I don't know if we're going to get much more out of the TLIF group. I think like with the TLIF, it's kind of what we have is what we have now.
As well, obviously, we can as well do a meta-analysis if we have to, because.
Well, the problem is that these questions, it's not. I don't think it's possible really to do a meta-analysis because these questions we ask them in this way, and I don't think you can compare it with someone else who asked different questions in a different ways of like their patients. I think it would be very difficult to do a meta-analysis, but it's conceivable.
The most recent group of patients, like
okay.
Yeah,
the other avenue was that John was going to look at if we can get some payer data. I mean, insurance data is like the holy grail of health economics research. So if we can get Blue Cross Blue Shield data, that would really make this, we can just basically, if we get Blue Cross Blue Shield data, we can just stop doing all this and just analyze their data, because that's like the the ultimate.
Jay?
Jane today, actually.
Mhm.
Okay. The bundle is a little bit on hold right now
Okay, what is that?
because he's trying, the roadblock that he's coming into is some of the people that are, part of the whatever are saying that our volume isn't high enough at this point with DCBS patients to justify the cost of creating a bundle. All right. However, he said he's going to revisit. Basically, he told me he was not going to happen in 2018. And expected to happen in 2018. So he goes, but 19, he goes, give me a call in January and we'll get back on this.
Can we get the insurance data for this study?
That's what I had asked him that once before he didn't respond to that. I will
Why
ask
don't
him
you
again.
call him tomorrow, say, we are doing this, and this is actually, that is a public thing. Isn't it a public,
DCBS?
is it a non-profit public entity? That is a public.
I don't think insurance data is public data. I don't think it needs to be publicly
Not
available.
individual patient information,
No,
but
but
the
as
general,
far,
like,
as far as what they're paying, no.
no, that's none of that is.
Medicare is, obviously, but not DCBS.
But yeah, but.
That would make my life a lot easier.
Well, can you get, if you use medical data, is that valid?
I mean, yeah, well, let's see if we can get Medicare data. Let's see, Medicare data.
That should be government, that should be. all
Medicare data
available.
is, it didn't be, but it is now.
No, but that is, let's use Medicare data.
So Medicare claims data. So,
Yeah, actually, that's not a terrible idea. Let's look into that.
Medicare is going to be separating the OLIPs, which OLIP it is.
well, but we know the code, we know the code.
Yeah, we know the patient as well, and we can
So
compare.
we're just looking for our patients.
We are just
No.
looking for our patient, right?
Yeah, I don't know how this would work. I don't know if Medicare would give out just like their specific patient data.
What we're looking for is that for our patient, how many of them, comparing to Keeler,
Exactly.
did they need aftercare or readmission and so on and so forth?
Longitudinal patient.
Yes.
Now,
So,
I know there's companies that license that data.
okay, well, still we should call Jay and say, hey, we're running a study. Please help us to get that study started. But as well, let's start looking at the Medicare data. And all of that is actually the government is a public. You should be able to get that data. It should be actually.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, yeah, we'll look into it. You typically getting this kind of government data just takes a long time, and it's not as easy as it should be. And then we might not. The thing is, they might have restrictions on, like, you can't get data for like specific people. You can just get data for like types of procedures or something like that. So we can look into it though.
I mean, I know that you can secure, I know companies that license it. It's called longitudinal patient data that's de-identified.
Mhm.
Okay, and you give them the codes that you're looking for, and they can give you, as far as.
Well, does OLIF have its own code?
Those companies to
I
us.
can do that today. I can call.
Okay,
them.
I think maybe next time, Ali, that your the economist friend should be on this call with us. So
Yeah, okay.
they can tell us exactly what they need. And
Yeah,
then
so-
maybe we can help them to get that data.
I mean, what I can do, Ali, in fact, at your office, I'll call a buddy of mine who sells this data.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, if you could get that, that would be great. Does OLIF have its own code though?
Pardon?
Does OLIF have an own procedure code that you can identify OLIF cases with?
Combination of 7 codes.
Combination of codes that is unique to OLIF.
Okay,
Look,
all right.
and there are so few people doing OLIF. You just have to look at those doctors, those surgeons' codes, and sort of.
But what you're interested in is that entire patient journey, all the codes from that patient's course of treatment, correct?
Right, we're not just looking at the surgery, we're looking at anything post after the surgery, basically. Like 2 years, maybe. I'd say at least 2 years.
So then let's postpone this another time. John will call Jay from Blue Cross Blue Shield and get the information about how we can get those data. And you make sure, please, that your economist friend is on the call next time, please.
Okay.
Okay. I see Sandra is there. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Hello.
So let's go around the table, introduce ourselves. You know me, you know John.
me?
Yeah, so Mike is
Yeah.
our the vice president of the marketing. Ken is
Medical lab.
yeah,
Yeah, we all met except for Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren?
Hi, that's me.
Nice to meet you.
Okay. And I think Lauren is now, I'm not sure if you met Allison. So Lauren is taking over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
So, and this is about, finding out how we can cooperate and assign duties and so on.
Mhm.
Lots of those the data entry is done for all our studies, and I'm not sure if you guys talked about that or not. There are a few studies going on. Ali, do you want to tell us what studies are going on right now and at what level we are with those studies?
Yeah, so the study we just talked about is the economic study. I don't think we need to repeat that now.
Just a short, just number.
It's basically comparing the cost of OLIF versus TLIF, not just the surgery, but also the treatments that patients receive after the surgery, such as physical therapy, follow-up surgeries, and all that stuff. So like the life cycle of the patient, we're kind of trying to hopefully show that OLIF is a cheaper alternative to TLIF. The next study, the one that we would first, I think the first thing that we'd like you to get involved with is the demineralized bone matrix versus TCP. I sent you some stuff on that.
Mhm.
So that study is in an early stage. The background of that is that insurance companies seem to be refusing TCP occasionally, and so we were forced to use demineralized bone matrix. John is currently getting the samples for that.
Right here.
This is what we are going to use.
With the sponge.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
So
Go and put that in your the IRB.
okay, send those details to us, please. So the idea is not just to just use it, but then to see if there's a difference in outcomes for using that versus the TCP. Given that this is, I spoke to the IRB guy, Waylon, given that this is standard clinical practice, I don't think that it's going to be difficult to get the IRB done. But I think, Sandra, it would be helpful if you could write the IRB application for this.
Okay.
I will send you an old IRB application for another project that we did, so you kind of have an idea of what they look like.
Okay.
And then you can fill in all the details and send it to me for review before we
Sounds
submit it to Pearl Pathways. The other study, the big study, is the OLIF landmark, where we looked at OLIF patients' 1-year follow-up outcomes, including imaging, clinical outcomes, complication rates, both during the surgery and then a year later. That study was just OLIF, so no comparison group. We submitted that for publication about 4 or 5 weeks ago. They told us the turnaround is going to be about 90 days for peer review. If they don't want it, we'll send it to another journal called Curious once that's done. But that study is basically done. We're just waiting on publishing it for now.
Okay, is it lots of work to prepare it for Curious? That if it's difficult, we are ready to go and we don't have another 4 weeks to.
That's actually, do you know that, Sandra? You might be able to do that actually.
Okay.
While we're waiting, you could. I'll send you the manuscript and I'll send you the instructions for preparing a manuscript for Curious. It's basically just some formatting. I don't think it's going to be a lot of work. I think it's going to be quite straightforward.
So what do you prepare that if we know that it's going to take them, because that's the Egyptian publishing company, right?
It's an Egyptian publishing company, but the peer review, the editors are all Western.
Okay, well, but their timeline might be that after 3 months they come and say we need another 3 months, but then we are going.
Yeah, it's possible. Okay, so we can prepare that for
What's the name of the
Curious.
publication?
It's a journal for minimally invasive surgery.
It's a British publication, or
It's an Egyptian company. It's published by an Egyptian publisher, but it's it's like all journals. So it has international people on its editorial board. They're like mostly from the U.S., Canada, and England. The people on the editorial board.
well, let's prepare it for Curious. If that it's prevented, because I think that is the 90 days is the maximum. We are going to now spend.
Okay.
So what do we have?
Well, we have the pig lab. So we developed a minimally invasive model for using a pig to train surgeons on how to do OLIF. That is I mean, all the work is done. We just need to write the paper. I'm hoping to get some time in the next few weeks to actually write that.
What was the need for that, Ali? And you guys, I talked to Ali about that to get a surgeon feedback about that.
Yeah. So what's the status on that actually? So that's the only thing we're waiting for.
Just look in our database and the places that see if you have the feedback from all the surgeons who have attended that. And do you want that feedback being in some standardized form, or what do you? How do you?
No, I'll just send it to me as like whatever you have, and I'll organize it. Word documents is fine as long as it's not handwritten or something. And just type it up and send it to me.
From all the labs.
From all the labs, all the
We got two
surgeons.
feedbacks, I know, from the last lab.
Good.
Yeah.
But no, we have
That was from there, you want nurses in there too? Well, that was for
No, I think that this is for PIC lab, not for the nurses. I think that is, we should have a feedback from the lab, but that's not what Ali is interested in for that paper.
Okay.
Which is
yeah. With that, Sandra, I think for you, I think just maybe some editing once the thing is written. I don't think that's something that you could you can write just yet. Maybe once you have some more experience with this.
okay.
You could help with that.
We have some future. What other future projects do we have, Ali?
So you talked about the stenosis subgroup.
Yes, that it's true spinal canal stenosis subgroup.
True spinal. Yep. So just to so Sandra, the basic idea is that because OLIF, you don't do any you don't do a laminectomy or anything like that. You don't like remove any bone from the spinal column.
Right.
So when there's actually a bone pressing on the spine, the spinal nerve, in theory, OLIF really shouldn't do very much for you. So OLIF is really not yet indicated for those cases. What Hamid has observed, though, is that patients where you do OLIF for a different reason and they happen to have some spinal stenosis, after the surgery, they can sometimes get better.
Sometimes
so
that's majority, but that's anecdotal until we can put it in a
right. So that study, we'd have to, I think for this study, so this study is kind of in the contemplation phase. We haven't really defined our study groups we've defined our study groups. We haven't really thought about outcomes. So I guess we can talk about that now, actually, if you guys want to.
Well, I think in the Neuropro, which I'm going to show you how it works, I'm going to show you, Sandra, how to, and we are going to record it so you can watch it later on.
Mhm.
Define a subgroup of patients, select them, and then literally, if a surgeon sees that, okay, this is a high-grade spinal canal stenosis, and in the surgery, the technologists ask us, what did you do? What subgroup? And they need to have a form that they truly ask us about that. Then that patient they get put in that subgroup, and then we will follow them up to see how much of them did it really help with their symptoms, how many of them did we have to take back to the surgery and so on.
Yeah.
How many of them they could have gotten another surgery, how many of them they are too old and you couldn't do 8-hour surgery, that was the only thing you could get, and if it's really worth it, that's what it's about.
So I think with this study, we have to be very careful to distinguish the symptoms the patient is experiencing, because obviously there will be an OLIF indication for the surgery, right? The indication is not going to be the spinal stenosis, so the patient will have a lot of symptoms. You might have symptoms from the stenosis, you might have symptoms from like radiculopathy or something like that. So I think we have to be very careful to distinguish like what symptoms does the patient have pre-op, what symptoms go away post-op, what symptoms does the patient still have after the surgery.
Okay, but just to get an idea, both of you, please just Google spinal claudication. Spinal claudication. CLAU. Claudication. Okay.
Claudication.
Claudication, like.
Claudication.
Yeah, it's a not with OU, with AU. Claudication. Okay, just look that up and read about that, because that is what, for this group, we want to look for, that it's successful or not, to get rid of their spinal claudication.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have the other subgroup, grade 2 spondylolisthesis. I just did one of those cases today morning. but that as well, we can put it on a timeline. So we have enough now patient that we can go and look at subgroups for each indication to see how they are doing. Obviously, grade 1 is not a question. I'm talking about grade 2 spondylolisthesis. And then we have to, right now in the Neuropro, I didn't classify them as grade 1 and grade 2. I classified them as if it's more than 5 millimeter, I put them in the subgroup, and if it's less than 5 millimeter, I put them in the not in the subgroup. But once we get all the diseases in the Neuropro patient, then we can go back and define: do we want to take the grade 1, grade 2, or just go stay with 5 millimeter and above? We have to decide before we start looking at the data, so we get the selection bias out of it. And obviously, hopefully, in the next toward the end of the 2019, we have enough patients for thoracic that we should look back now that you remember, Ali, the paper that we wrote, they were for 4 patients. Now we are approaching 30 patients. Now that would be a good go look back at the clinical outcome as well.
Yeah. For both the listhesis and the stenosis, I think we're going to have to go back and look at the imaging too. At least the pre-op imaging, so they were clear about like who's in the study. Do we have, what's the situation with reading our imaging for research? Do we have a solution on that yet?
We have to find that solution, John. Where are we with new people reading our radiology images? Where are we?
I have been a roadblock. Last one with whom I spoke said he didn't want to do it. So I'm back to square one.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll just have to make do with what we have.
Well, let's start looking more.
I know, I am. I'm back there.
I mean, it is a tough sell for people to read all this extra imaging.
Well, we are paying them, so.
Right, but yeah.
Because the big issue is these guys don't want to fill out anything by hand.
But they don't have to fill it by hand. They can write the information. Ali, can you look at our protocol, what you're looking at, and come up with it, or maybe I can do that. Come up with this. Okay, we are going to come up with a template with the NDI. If they are going to read our imaging, they have to use that template and give us. They have to do it anyway. This is not the extra work that we are expecting from them. This is part of what they are supposed to do. Reporting about if the bone is growing, if the screws are in the right place. So,
is this something that maybe a student radiologist could do?
No. This is board certified radiologist.
Correct, but we're asking them to go back and look at the old data, not stuff that we're saying.
Well, we pay them to go and read the old data if they have to. For thoracic, if there are 30 patients. That's not a high number. And we are paying them, what, $40, $50?
I went down this path. I started with them. He referred me to a guy up in Cleveland. He referred me to a guy there.
Why don't you schedule a meeting with that guy that we are going to prepare a text that they don't need to fill out the form, but we are going to give them a text and we are going to make them understand, at least in the future. And then it had to be a standard text that somebody from us can, from that text, fill out at the form or transfer the content of that.
I mean, yeah, the regular radiology report should have all the information that we need.
Good, but it's scattered. It's not like you have to be a doctor yourself to be reading it from there.
They're inconsistent. Yeah. You know, they're going to use different words.
Well, that's why, because what I did, I sent them our protocol. I said, here's what I'm looking for.
The protocol, we send it to them, they sign it. We don't really, I mean, as long as they, if they're like a qualified radiologist, they can, I'm confident they can read it. The protocol is just so that we have something that we can point to and say, like, you know, we don't need them to like count up the millimeters in the protocol.
Okay, well, just make a meeting, please, between me and the NDI, whoever doing a Zoom meeting, and I'm going to tell them if they are going to read our, we have those information, and we are going happy to send them some sort of template that they can read it. They don't have to fill out the form. This is not an extra work. This is what they are supposed to do. We just want them always do it in the same way that somebody else who's not
As far as how we do with our radiology reads moving forward.
NDI.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct, okay.
We need them, if they need to read our post-op
So that
images
it's
and
consistent
read it consistently.
for consistent, so we're gonna give them a template for consistent reads.
That's right.
I mean, it's gonna be as simple as A, B, C, D. They don't really have to write something, they just have to, it fits one of these categories.
Yeah, or they should send us their template and we just say,
I'm sure Alan will have no problem getting on a video conference with
good,
us.
let's do that.
So,
Let's do that. Okay. Okay, but we still need to find somebody who can go and read the historical data for us. And those people are all around, they're like, it needs to be a board certified
radiologist, correct.
better board certified neuroradiologist or spine musculoskeletal radiologist for historical data. Okay. What else do we need to talk about before I start showing you the Neuropro?
You should give the tour.
Okay.
Is there anything else you need me for?
Not really.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
So, yeah.
So we are going to give you, Sandra, access to the Neuropro. It's just a remote, and we use the Google Chrome remote. And it's just you just have to sign into the Google Chrome with a certain username and password. And
I'm already signed in.
Oh, good, excellent. You're one step ahead of me. And so let me just log in myself here. Do we even have Google Chrome on this computer? Have you used this computer to?
Unless that's a new computer, I've seen you guys before.
I've had Chrome on it. There it is, Google Chrome.
Do we need to start the recording?
We don't, but they brought it in the school, so. I like to put two in the fridge, one's for one and one's for Mira.
So you're signed in here, John. Do you want to use your thing? Do you want to go if you have your username and password? You go remotely to one of the remote computers.
That's for Mike.
Hmm?
That's for Mike.
No, you are signed in. So, be right? No, no.
John told me to log in too.
Because I can also share my screen, and then if you want to do it that way, that may work easier.
No, I
He wants to run.
Yeah,
I see.
I can show it. You have a little different way.
We started going back to the driver was trying to get back quickly because the storm was coming. He's like skipping across the top of the waves. We're hitting wave to wave to wave to wave.
Oh, that's when you get the bottom drops.
Yeah. And you know, I could stand into it and it dropped. My knees probably.
It's not added to this one.
I heard him.
We can start recording.
We've been recording.
Okay.
Be on that first part.
Sign to Google Chrome. Okay.
So quick question, since we're recording, so if I forget something, will I be able to replay it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
I recorded it to this PC because my cloud is 90% full.
So now I'm going to share my screen with you.
Sounds great.
Doesn't let me.
I want to connect.
I'm going to sign you out, Mike.
I'm not like
Oh, yes, you are.
not the Neuropro.
Not to Neuropro, but the
Oh.
signed you out.
No, I make sure I'm reading it. Yeah. When we go through Neuropro, make sure that we have a method that brings down
Mystery box. Ham, cheese, rice. Mystery meat.
Well, you could have mine, I just threw it away.
Oh, you threw it away.
Ah, still in the box. No worries. And the cookie too.
What? What?
Hey, you know what?
Don't throw cookies away.
Cookies and pickles. If it would have been chocolate chip, we might have.
This is chocolate chip. We can, well, shit, we can split it.
Oh, it's not so amazing.
No, it's the chocolate chunk.
Yeah, yours was open amazing.
That was mine.
This is the garbage.
That's very good.
So we have some technical difficulties here.
I'm gonna have my laptop if you want me to
No,
log
that's
in with
fine.
that.
When I signed in, I had to sign to the remote access. Is that, well, I always sign with that one? Because I noticed when I signed in, it did have my name, so that'll be the one that's always for me, or is that a shared with other people?
Depending on what it is, but eventually I may give you your own. I think that's a shared one for now.
Okay.
Something's happening.
I don't know.
What did you do with my kids?
This is not me right now. Are you in a diner or are you where are you going?
Oh, actually, I'm at somebody's basement in Apple Valley.
I was looking at Airbnb because we were talking about using that in the hotel.
Did he put you in a hole and told you he put the lotion?
It's a very nice basement.
Uh-huh.
It's
He put the lotion in the basket. Okay, this is remote, and I think this is not working.
Yeah, I got it off the
That's a lot.
It's on the top.
It was near God, adjacent to God. That's the case. Once I open the door, I go track it down.
So Airbnb and Apple Valley.
$60 a night. An adventure. The adventure.
In the middle of the night, no, he's not coming visiting you. Huh?
No.
Yeah? Sure.
Actually rent my basement out. It's not a bad idea, actually.
I want to do it at my house like the Super Bowl.
You did?
I didn't,
Why not?
because I don't own it.
My son thought about that too, but then as you get into a sublease.
Yeah.
situation-
Yeah.
There's so many animals from Northeast Kensington, Northeast Village.
Sonny Kim did that.
You know.
He made lots of
Got
money.
60
I did.
Yeah, and but they trashed his house.
Sure they did.
Okay, this is something
Must have been
wrong
the
with this.
Patriots
It's not working.
So, I'm gonna join the call.
Yeah.
And
And
I got,
turn off the
yeah.
okay, I'm just going to unshare it.
I will share.
Yeah, but you put it on mute. Okay. Let me comment people.
My Chrome.
Okay. Okay.
What's gonna happen now, but I've only been, my wife.
Sorry. Blame on me.
Okay, did you remote into the Neuropro or?
No, I just opened up, I got the photo. So I opened up Chrome. Should be able to get
Yes, you're already, so instead of
that's wrong.
signing you out, you just go to the,
Yeah, you can use the same.
use your credential. Enable remote connections, huh?
Well, I haven't used that computer.
It doesn't remember my interest. That's how I use it.
Okay, maybe I should just go to my computer and I'll set the.
There you go. Go remote desktop. Oh, there you go.
The one that I got was garbage. Hold on.
So,
9669112.
that's right. Okay. You're gonna put a passcode here. I'm just going for now. You can change it. Probably 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3,
It's 6 characters. 6, 5, 6.
5, 6. 5, 6. If this doesn't work, I just go to my office. I'm all set up there. So, you see, yeah, they haven't given you any credentials.
Yeah, you have
That
credentials
is
for
what
that.
it is. I
That's
have
the
to
problem.
sign you out and sign back in with
Unless
my
you want to use yours.
credentials.
What's that?
You can use yours.
What? No, I've signed in with the R&D.
No, but you
Not-
see, I can't, it's okay, come on. I'm signing you out, and then you just have to sign back, okay? So once you're set up, you're all
It
signed.
happened to me the first time for the right? Oh. So I came back to my normal login, it forgot. Then called Ashley, she's like, yeah. But that link data.
So that's turned on.
Yeah.
Change.
That one.
Yeah. Like, this is the computer uploading the airplane that meetings and stuff. I'm sure that's that big laptop and stuff. It's a little too bulky to use on your-
Still going to get that thing.
That's on.
Are you in apps?
Yeah, it's coming. It's just getting
There
that
it is.
thing. No idea what that is. Okay, what's going on here now? You have a virus here, I guess.
There you go.
So you don't see what's happening here. This is just
Stick it on your screen.
look at the. Yeah, what's
What's
going
this
on?
flickering?
It's like
Yeah.
flickering back and forth really, really fast.
Since you get the button user. Sandy's thinking everybody else is gonna eat that too.
Okay, I'm there.
Eating it down to the to her house.
Um,
We should plan to do a construction thing, right? Get those guys helmet on.
I have no idea yet. Let me just do.
Low voltage mic.
Mike.
Mikey. I'm glad that's in the name.
Well, what happened to Mikey?
It's just, you're finding him with Mike for a low voltage.
Yeah.
I like low voltage.
Yeah,
That's
that's an awesome
Yeah,
nickname.
too long.
Like low
That's
voltage
too
mic.
long.
LV mic.
Okay, here. Share. Okay, I'm there.
So what was the deciding factor between the two?
What's the sponge?
Did we?
Instant handling.
So here it is. So this is still recording?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to sign in with my name. You don't need help with that. So are you able to see that, Sandra?
Yeah, I have my own. It's it has the referral, the business partners, inventory bank, checks.
No, but can you see our screen?
Can you see ours?
Oh yeah, I can see your screen. Yes.
Good, good. So if you go in here, you get this window here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In this window, one of the most important part is the patient, obviously, the patient information. And Sandra has signed the HIPAA thing, right?
I had to do HIPAA for EMS, so I've done HIPAA.
Okay. So if you go to patient, all access databases are oriented. It's going to take a while. It's going to, first time it brings it up, it's going to take a little longer.
Okay.
But then all access databases are oriented with their window, and on the bottom is the navigation kind of plane. And once it comes, I show it to you. Only the first time, especially if there are lots of people are in that, it takes a little longer. So like any other window, you can make it bigger and so on. But look at them down there. You see there are 6,326 patients in this database right now. Now, each patient actually, the patient, like, let me look for somebody called Smith. I'm sure there's somebody with that name here. And
sorry to interrupt. I have a quick question. Is this all in German?
No, it's just the navigation. Some of the navigation thing I have to go and fix it. Don't worry about that. Okay. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, this is the plane.
Please tell me his name.
Down here are the patient. This takes you one step forward. This takes you to the last patient. One back. First patient. And if you want to enter a new patient, the star sign. Okay? If you are going to look for a specific patient, that is how it's organized. You type the last name, comma, space, first name or part of the first name. If you are not sure about that, you can just put like part of the last name, then you can put star, part of the first name, like MI. Let's see if there's anybody who starts with SMI and then any character and then MI. Look at what comes up. Let's see if there's anybody like that. So, Smith Michael, okay? So that's how you get the individual patient. Let's get the patient that I did surgery, for example, today. And Winfield, Winfred, what was the name of that patient? Winfield, W-I-N field D. Okay, that is the patient I did surgery today, so they still haven't put the surgery data in. And so start up here is the name of the patient, date of birth, date of first visit, attending, which you can change. This is the diagnosis and the operation that I put in before the surgery. After the surgery, somebody is going to treat that. That should be still reflecting the most recent surgery that is done. Okay? Then here is the part that you are probably interested in study. And the yellow part is the part that I put in. Like, I put them on the surgical track. I schedule it, like this says schedule. I usually put one of these options. It's not an option, but doing other things, patient thinking about it. I put them on dark order, and then the office will take over and change it to those steps as needed. Then forget about these other things for now, but I put them in a surgical group. I know what I'm going to do. So I put them on Olaf, and this one has a listhesis, for example. And there, see, if you look it up, these are the surgical groups, top to bottom, Olaf, Olaf open, Olaf lumbar, DLIF. This is an old-fashioned DLIF, not our DLIF, because our DLIF is MIS DLIF down here. That is one of the procedures we do. And ETIF. So at your time, just there are lots of this abbreviation, okay? But mostly what probably you will be dealing with is Olaf, MIS ETIF. This is the thoracic surgery. MIS DLIF. That is the new approach that we invented. And SI joint fusion. That is probably one of the other things you're going to deal with. I don't believe you're going to deal with other procedures in your capacity. And then the subgroups are, deformity like scoliosis. Scoliosis all go to deformity, listhesis, and so on and so forth. And each of them is one of those studies that we are going to look at. Like we already did the high BMI on the bigger people, and some other studies are coming. Now, if we are going to do a new study, we can identify, change this so that we can choose them from the start, put them in that group. Now, Most of the other things I don't believe you're going to deal with, but definitely something you're going to deal with. Many times, the very first initial visit is here, or if it's not here, if you go to follow up and go to the very first entry, like entry 7/27/18, that is most likely the first visit, which is as well the first entry. It's already, so it's made this way that you see a synopsis here, and I don't expect you to understand all the synopsis because this is truly abbreviation of many things, a diagnosis and plans that we have. Yeah, but you know, but for somebody who does what we do, that sort of tells exactly what we are going to do, and they are sorted that way. First, there is a date. That is the date I saw the patient. How do I know I saw the patient? Because I have my initials there, Hamid Abbasi.
Okay.
I saw the patient in Inspired Spine City. In that visit, I looked at discogram that was in maps and the post-discogram CT not available. So if it's available, I say where that scan would be. And that's important to tell our radiologists where to look for that. And then there are two sentences. One sentence is with my finding, and the other sentence is the plan. And those two sentences are separated by a colon. Like here says lumbar disc disease versus bilateral side joint disease, that in the first visit, and serial bilateral side joint injection, lumbar MRI, get discogram CT and follow up. And in the last visit, which was 10/19, my visit says Hamid Abbasi saw the patient, MRI was in 7 Medical. I obviously looked at that MRI and the diagnosis was confirmed L4 to S1 DDD spondylolisthesis grade 2, colon, proceed with Olaf. And so this gives you a historical thing to read about what's going on with this patient. Now, obviously, this is not all the information here, but if you double click here, it opens up another window, and in that other window, you get the entire clinic notes. With the time, you will get just good at understanding what those things are, but Ali can help you, I can help you. Those abbreviations and so on, once you get a little more into it, it's not really truly a big deal. But that is how you get medical information. Now, once the surgery is done, and this is supposed to be here already, which is not, but let's see, go to a patient that, for example, I did surgery a while back. Who do I pick up? Judith? Yeah.
Nylander.
What was the last name?
Nylander, Nylander.
Lander, J. Okay. Okay, here's Judith. So, if you see here, with Judith, we did a surgery. The surgery was in 8/23/18. This is the category, and most of our patients are 10. You may want to write that down. 10/05, 1 through 6. This goes from neck to down to the neck, without instrumentation, without hardware, without screws, neck with screws. So 105, 1, 2, chest, same, without screws, with screws, and the lower back. Then most of our fusions are obviously 10/05.6. So then actual procedure, and you see they haven't put the procedure. Procedure is Olaf. And then the type of procedure, who's the surgeon, who's the operation assistant, where was the surgery done, and these are some other information, okay? If again I double click on this, it opens up another window that I have more information, like in the more, so Ashley was in the room, the study data, if I go there, obviously all the green stuff has to be filled. Here, the status is complete, the patient is not on the surgical track anymore, it's in the Olaf group, and the 2 levels were done, and those 2 levels, this is our convention, L4/5/S1. If there were 3 levels, we put L3/4/5/S1. And the reason for that is that then you can go and look for how many L3/4s you have done. The biologics that we did was TCP, and this is patient in and out of the ward, blood loss. Now here, time of the surgery, how much time we spend in the surgery, fluoro time, BMI. Are you familiar with BMI? Body mass index. This is that's how big patients are. Like most of people are between the 24 and 28. You're a little obese if you're above 28, and you're morbidly obese if you're above 35. Then if there are other diagnoses, like somebody has a diabetes mellitus, DM, and so on and so on, chronic disease, they come here. If somebody's a smoker, this box gets checked. If they have a deformity, then we describe it a little more. Complication, if there's anything, then we write it down. And so on. And then there's some other stuff here, forget about it for now. So that is enough for you for now. Now, that sort of is it for many of the things you are going to deal with. There's another thing called patient journey that is mostly for our office, but I'm going to talk about that so the people here have a record of that. This patient journey is practice says where we are with this patient. Like, let's go to that same patient that we had before, that Winfield. In that patient, you see that patient schedule. I did the surgery today, so nobody has taken it off yet. But so the diagnosis, what operation is going to be done. Obviously, like one of the things they are going to have to do is here, we didn't do that. So there's no reason for that to be there. So they have to change it to this. Okay? But that, whatever is here, it's going to be everywhere where is a diagnosis, it's going to be there too. You see that there? It's gone there to be possible thing. And if somebody is ordered, literally, I put them here on the doc order, and as you see, it progresses, it's scheduled. Now, patient is in the global phase. You see the color change. Somebody still need to put their surgery data in. And then that is for you guys important. Are you guys, Mike, are you guys using all these steps and so on? So it is all where it's supposed to be. Now,
so the question would be though, if they're not in here, but they're in it'd be the surgery study page, and they click the patient on surgery track, it also takes that here to just like
everywhere, it's all connected. So if you put it in one place, everywhere is going to be there. And you see, I changed it here in global. So I'm done with this.
What's the difference between global and complete?
Completed is that patient is gone. We have nothing to do with that patient anymore.
So after all the follow-up,
final CT is done and it's fused.
That's completed.
Completed. It's not part of your patient journey anymore.
I was just curious.
They put it all. These people, they put it all in completed. They have to put it in global and then post-global and so on and so forth. And as a matter of fact, only people who would put it on completed is you guys. 3 months after they have the last visit, you guys call, are you still okay? Everything is fine? Yes, completed. Then it falls off of your list. You guys are done with that. So the options there are here. You see that? Schedule. And then global, post-global, and so on. And then complete is something. I can sort it to put it in that order. But if it matters. So we are practically done with this. Just to complete this, let's go to that patient journey. Here, that patient journey gives you all the patients that in what step of their journey they are. And you remember, we looked at for that patient that we just had, that is Winfield. So it's already sorted by the patient. I can just come and scroll it down here. Or I can go sort it backward because it's faster, probably with Winfield, to go backward. And
That's the global one, don't worry.
You're in orange now.
Here. You see that? I changed it in the other window. It already changed it here. Okay? And if I click on Winfield here, see what's up there. Up there is ZSON. If I click on Winfield, it takes the information of Winfield donor, put it up there, then I can go look at all the information here. And if I add something here, XXX, that will be in everywhere, in all windows, that information will be there. Now, one of the things that I think is important here for Journey and every other place that you see something like that, it works the same way. You can sort it the way you want in two different ways. One way is like, I want to go and look at all the OLIF patients, like I'm deselecting it all, and then put just the OLIF group here. Come down here, OLIF. Okay. You see now it's giving me 388 patients that are in Persian Journey for the OLIF. But now I want to see how many are scheduled. So in each column, I can go sort it a little better. So I'm going there, selecting all again, and I'm looking for those that doc has ordered them. Now I have all the OLIF that the doc has ordered, and if I go back here in the first stage again, here they are. Now, there are still 43 patients. I want to know, like, all the patients that I saw in the last 3 months, or I can define a date filter. Can go sort them or go last month. Okay, let's go, for example, here. Everybody who I saw last month on this thing, here it is. These are all the oldest patients that I ordered the surgery in the last month. You see, each column I can go and refine it, and you will need that for your studies to refine this 6,000 patients for that specific group of patients that you want to. Now I'm just filtering the patient, but every other information that we have, you can filter it the same way. Well, and you can as well do a little more complex kind of filtering, like, the select all, filter here. There is a thing, it says filter between, like, January 1/1/2018, and let's say, for example, 2/28/2018. Now it gives me only those data for those patients here. This obviously in those.
Hopefully have 0.
Well, yeah, because hopefully they're ordered and now they're not ordered anymore because they are advanced.
That's what I mean. I better be 0.
Yeah, but let's go back now to on that patient status. Filter something else there. Where was it? Surgical group.
Should be, if you got status was.
Surgical track, here it is. Subgroup, I can absenting that. Okay.
If you go to the bottom where it says filters, and you highlight it and get your list of all the filters.
Yeah, I'm just unfiltering it again. So let's go back here. So a status. If I get something on a different status and go and make the same thing, I can get all the people that are in global. I ordered I saw the patient in February, for example, January, February. Yeah, that is a good sign that there's nobody more on the order from January, February, because if you remember, once you looked at, there were people from 2017 still. Obviously, the database is working, doing the job to take them off that order to other levels. Okay, so any questions regarding this?
No, not so much. Just maybe if you have some of like the can I Google like some of the definitions or some of like the acronyms, or would they be hard to find?
Send me a list and I'll tell them what they are.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, so let's go down to other place. Now, this is just patient journey. There's another piece that it is regarding the patient filter that has a little more for patient filtering. Has a little more option for patient filtering. I want to show you another way of filtering the patient. You can use this way, the way I showed you, or this way, in any windows that look like that. You can go to Home, Advanced by Filter. Now, literally, you can type here. You want to have all the patient with the name of Smith, like Smith star, that are age between 20 and 60 of Dr. Abbasi. Here. And then you go to Home, toggle filter, and here they are. You see, you can do it with the, you can put a name, date of birth, define what a range of patient you want to have. Any field that it's here, you can use to filter the data. And if you go to study group, I'm going to show you, for example, one of the.
So these are current patients on the surgical track right
No,
No.
you see, this is not patient journey anymore.
now. Okay.
This is a different thing.
So Don Smith must have been more than 60.
I guess.
She's not on there anymore.
So there's 12 Smiths.
I'm guessing she's Louise. I think that's not what she was.
12 Smiths.
Okay, well, so let me go here, for example, on those patients. So you get the idea. By going to Home, Advanced, Filter by Form, you can use any of this field to narrow down your filter and run the filter and study that, who did I put on Olive group, for example, surgical group, Olive open, let's say Olive open, and so on and so forth. So now, do not confuse that. I'm still looking at the patient. I'm not looking at the surgery because the surgery data is somewhere else. Now, let me close this. Now I go to surgery filter, okay? If I go to surgery filter, it may look like it is, I'm looking at the patient data, but it is not. It's actually, for example, if one patient has 5 surgeries, you will have 5 entries here for that patient because this is the surgery data. Something I'm going to show you, be very careful with, see what's happening here. You see when I click here, it marks that. You're marking the entire data of this patient. Now, I can use Control-C to copy it, but you do not use Control-X because that's going to cut it out. Or do not push delete because that's going to delete the data of this patient. Okay? So be very careful if that thing is marked there. Okay? So now it's not marked anymore. Here, I can do the same thing. Let me show you how many Olive on people who had scoliosis I have done this year. That's just one example, but that example, again, shows you, and I'm going to do it both ways. And you can decide what's easier for you. So, let's go. This is now surgery data, okay? This has nothing to do with the patient. These are actual surgeries that we have done. So, I'm going to look for Hamida Abbasi, select all, Hamida Abbasi, okay. It goes down from whatever to this number. Now I'm going to go to, just move forward. Go surgical group, select all, and just look for Olive. Where is Olive?
It's below M.
You see?
One going down.
My
One
eyes are
down.
so bad.
OLIF.
Here it is. Now, it's from 2,478, it turns to 566. These are just OLIF. Not OLIF open. And then let's go to the subgroup. I want to know how many of them were scoliosis patients. Then we have to use this subgroup. So, operator 1 chose for the group OLIF. What am I missing here? Where is the subgroup? Here, subgroup, here. Subgroup to select all deformity. And now I want to know how many of them I lost more than 300 cc of blood. I go to blood loss.
Just passed it.
Just passed it.
Yeah, just back.
My eyes are really bad now.
One more over.
How many that you lost? 300? None.
Well, no, but I want to show how you look for it. So you go to, you can just, here it's filtered by number of filter is less or greater than 300. Okay, none. Now, I'm going to do the same thing the other way. Let me remove filter. Advance by filter. So, Abbasi is already there, or maybe took it from the other thing. And then I want to go to the surgical groups, OLIF deformity, you choose it, like if it wasn't there, I would be choosing it. I think it took it over from the other thing. Okay, OLIF. And you see here it puts greater or equal to 300. I can as well put just right between 100 and 200. Let's see. Deformity. So Abbasi, the oldest deformity, had blood loss 100 to 200. So depending on how many things you are looking at, might be easier. Here it is. So 5 of them I lost between 100 and 200. Okay, so and that is how you can filter for the actual surgery and surgical data. Now, there are tons of other things going on here, but I think that would be too much to continue now anymore. I think that is enough for today. There are lots of other things that the database is doing, but so we talked about the patient track, surgery, or patient track filter, surgery filter, and patient journey. That's all what we talked about. And there are lots of other things that are going on. We are not going to talk about them. Just for right now, just forget about them. But now you can go and look up a patient, get the medical information, read the medical data, and so on. And I will help you. Maybe you and I will just make another Zoom just between the two of us, have all those abbreviations and so on. Mm-hmm. And I can go with that with you through that. And what we can do, if you have a question, probably somebody else has that question too. And I can record that. I'm not sure if you have been told, but we are creating some sort of technical college or university. And whatever we are producing it can be part of that. We just have to put a spin on it, make it a little nicer and so on. And then, that like medical terminology, I think that would be a fantastic thing to happen. Medical terminology, but this is really medical terminology.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah. So, as a matter of fact, do come with a list of things and write them down and so on. And I make a point of making a really nice presentation, answering all those questions, going over all those terminology, and make you understand. Even if you know it, still put it on that list. then I still go over it, and then you and I will make a video together regarding that, okay?
That sounds good.
You probably make sure that you hit that quit button.
Say that again?
So you have to hit that quit button.
Yes, yes, it's extremely important. Once you're done with this, you just push down quit. It closes down this database, then it can do maintenance. If somebody is still open, like any other system, if it's open, you cannot do maintenance.
I see.
I'm going to stop sharing and sign out of this so you don't have mice and stuff. Okay, any questions, Sandra?
The only question I have is so when we do this, we have to every time sign out of our where's this Zoom? Sorry. We have to sign out of our own stuff and then sign into this separately every time?
No, down the road, I'll give you some credential that you can go with your thing and as well have access.
Okay.
We are doing lots of things. Usually it doesn't take, even signing out and signing back in, it takes usually 30 seconds. It doesn't really take long.
Okay.
Okay, but down the road, we will assign a computer that's just yours here. Once we move the database from the other place here, we will have these racks. Everybody will have a computer assigned to them.
Okay.
And they can just sign to their own computer. Then there is a pool. You can sign to yours or to the pool. You make it easier, okay? And
Okay.
you may even put it on the cloud. We haven't decided, but we are still working on those things, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Say again, please. No, that's just static. It cuts. The last thing you were saying cut off.
Okay. Well, let's maybe talk this weekend, okay?
That sounds great. And does everyone have my number and email address?
Yeah, you guys have all Sandra's email address, don't you?
Yep.
Good. Okay.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Oh, and when will this video be on if I needed to go back and look at it?
John, where is the
Video's on this PC.
on that PC?
Yeah, if you could upload it. Because
Then we will.
my cloud's got no strong.
Okay, so
my cloud.
okay. Well, hopefully within the next 2 days.
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Now I'm going to show the rest of you. Okay. Thank you, Sandra. I'm just going to.
Thank you. I guess. Bye.
Okay, I was a little premature. I want to show you guys something else as well. I did that credentialing thing. I want to show you that as well. I signed out a bit too early, prematurely.
Hey, we're gonna sit down with Deborah here
Yeah.
on Friday morning because we have some ideas as far as those categories.
Good.
So I got some.
So then let's
I
just
clarified
focus
it.
on that.
Yeah, I clarified some stuff in my head. So Friday morning when Deb's here, we're gonna be banging out here. Also, if you turn around,
Give me- Yeah, this is yours. You can just sign up.
so I've been wanting to do this with Mike for like 2 months. So this whole concierge transport service, we got pre-ASC downstairs and post-ASC downstairs. These are the 2 things that I've identified. Obviously, the trip to Nura and back, that round trip. Maple Grove, Edina, Burnsville, for the radiology, as well as clinic referrals, us to them and them to us.
And mostly it's about them doing the discograms and then driving the patient here. Now, you are hearing all that nonsense. They want to, okay, but the thing is, and the concept has not changed. They're still going after bottom of the barrel.
Well, this guy was the one that was talking the truth.
Yeah, but meaning that we have to be on our side careful to keep those high-end patients. We do our procedure on a work comp that we get lots of money. We do it here. We just have to be careful that it doesn't.
We have to have a system here that is designated that says here's how you schedule for work. Here's
Everybody
how you
else, we
refer
send
to-
them. We keep them busy. We send all the Medicare to them.
Correct.
They do their surgery center, and
Because
then our
they're-
shuttle have to pick them up, come here, get a CAT scan, and drive them back, and so on.
So we'll have, but I'm saying so before we have an ASC, before they have an, right? This is for this radiology thing we talked about, as well as what I'm calling clinic referrals, what they send to us, as well as what you just said, what we send to them, okay? That's what that show will be. The other one is from upstate, Crookston region, to Alex, and this is for the leads that we're generating. We're not just gonna give those to Riverview,
I mean,
or are we?
well, it depends on how much does it cost us to do
Well,
that.
this is what we got to evaluate.
Yeah. No, it's a
Right,
cost versus benefit.
Correct.
And with the Crookston, the thing is, with the Crookston, you get one of your best kind of returns from Crookston.
I do, but I'm keeping this in mind of the fact that if it's not a surgical patient, right, they end up getting surgery treatment. I want to get paid for the surgery treatment if I pay for that route.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. And also down the road, what were we talking about the other week?
No, but
Again, the next year, we don't want you going on.
So no, when you get the lead, you let them come to us, and then we decide if they go to.
For surgery, absolutely.
No, but for anything else, like if they need an injection, and that is a good insurance, pay $2,000 for an injection. Yeah, we drive them.
Then we'll go get them, I got you, yeah.
And so,
But that initial performance, though, you're saying, we will.
No, but I'm saying.
Probably couldn't afford to go up there.
No, but from the shuttle standpoint, between Crookston and Dallas, we're not gonna bring people from there down here yet. Yet.
so not yet.
Yeah.
So,
But surgery patient, once you have our surgery center.
it's okay, phase two, ASC downstairs. We'll have these shuttles, and we'll just add this.
Mhm.
So the one from Crookston to Alex, then with Alex here.
And with those surgeries, I think it's still, if truly this is the patient population we want, we can pick them up from their home,
Oh, yeah.
bring them here. You have to look at the legal aspect of it. We talked about that. There might be some legal limitation there.
I can discuss all this with.
Yeah, we have to look into that, but if we are getting paid, with $70,000, $80,000, $100,000, it's better for us to pick, we can pick them up from their home.
Absolutely.
Bring them here to this.
Mike asked me this question, patient criteria for ASC. This is my understanding. Obviously, their condition, the complexity of the surgery, and then.
Yes, right.
Did I miss anything?
No, they're not missing anything.
And then this obviously is mitigated by this.
Yep.
Right, so, okay.
So what's he saying that is not going to happen this year?
He just said, look, he goes, the resistance he's getting as well, because you gotta do, he's dealing with big bureaucrats that look at this big business, and they have to like run through their bundling center, and actually it's in Pennsylvania, it's Highmark, which is in Harrisburg. They were like,
They're
well,
too small to do that.
it's like to take up their time. So I'm like, well, I said, have you been looking at the data since? I said, the data I sent you was from last year. I said, only like less than half that year we were back in network. Okay, he goes, no, he goes, I'm keeping up with that. He goes, look, he goes, right now, he goes, I'm gonna get this back on track. It was only in January. But his thing was, I think he thought I was thinking we were gonna get it this year. So,
Yeah, that's fine.
but no, we'll stay on that.
Stay back, and when Nylander comes, please give her a high-end reception and so on.
Oh, also,
Right, yeah.
can I tell you this? No, so I asked him how his mother-in-law's doing. He's like, she's doing great. He goes, well, because I saw her Thanksgiving. He's like, the only complaint she has, she doesn't like the bone growth stimulator.
See, that is the point.
So
People after this kind of surgery are miserable for so long. If that's the only complaint,
no, that's the point.
for what we are doing.
That was his point. He goes, no, he's like, yeah, she's doing really well. He goes, we didn't really talk about that too much. But the bone growth stim, it's obviously orthopedics, right? So I'm like, it's interesting that you mentioned. I'm about to call a guy about an alternative bone growth stim. So he's like, oh, really? I said, yeah. I said, I keep our options open. I said, feedback like this is great. So, but sorry. I keep forgetting to
It's just like a while ago.
So anyways, so anyways, I talked to Pete.
Okay.
According to him, I think it's $100 less than this.
Good.
He's gonna get with them and get them trained on how to do this. I can't believe he's finding it this show.
Okay. Right. And then Friday, let's get together. I'm going to show you those elements of the patient credential. You need to start putting data in. You're going to streamline the process. You're going to send automatic, sort of reminders and so on. And Deb knows it. She's going